So, good afternoon, everybody out there in Facebook land. Good afternoon. We are flipping the polls because I'm working now at night doing these videos versus the morning, which is good. And so it dawned on me the other day as I'm going through my news feed and all that stuff, and then I'm just remembering stuff that I was paying attention to the last couple years. And I'll say this, there's a reason why I paid attention to certain cases in the media, and then why I have a reaction to the death and reproduction crowd. Okay, the love, those that are so tied up in their kids, so tied up in the death and reproduction world. Okay, obviously if death and reproduction was so deadly, we would have extinction. So there's so many different levels of death and reproduction. Okay, so many different levels of death and reproduction. And life is painful. I will say this, and I know my boobs look big, but this is just who I am today. But yeah, life is extremely painful. And if you have not filled in the gaps, if you have not released the demons, if you are a percentage of your potential and you want to fulfill more of your potential, it is painful to take on more potential, to increase the pressure, take on more potential, and increase intelligence. It's painful to be extremely intelligent. It really is, because many people don't want to deal with the pain of life. And so what do? They anesthetize it. They surgically take it out. They use herbs and extracts. They stay away from anything that causes them pain. And it could be a food. It could be anything. Okay? And so life is painful. Then you add in, when you have life, then you add in trauma to life. You develop demons. Okay? And so, yes, on one hand, you need cream, you need milk, you need meat or complete proteins. You need fruits and vegetables, water, salt and sugar and carbs and all of that. But on the other side of it, what kind of life are you developing? How are you programming that life that you are developing inside? And that could be you as a person with your body, mind, and spirit and all of your 11 different systems. And or you could be deteriorating and sending reproduction signals to your reproductive system to then cause you to drop an egg and or drop seeds. And that in of itself is another ball of worms, wax, whatever, that people must understand how they are programming themselves and how the trauma with themselves to cause the eggs and the sperm to drop, how is that going to affect the offspring? What are you producing? What are you developing? What are you programming? Okay, so we have like 11, 12 different archetypes, and we have so many different personality types. And then the different career fields and or different industries, career fields, strengths and weaknesses that the Rosicrucians way back 6,000 years ago, and then all the Roman Empire and all the different empires and the rise and fall of civilizations have recorded different types of people. They recorded how they deal with symptoms, how they deal with death and reproduction. They recorded so many different things, of which we now have a lot of it on the internet, and there's some probably still archived that have yet to be released. And if they are released, they are translated in something that you wouldn't think is something ancient. It was merged in with something that you already knew or know. Okay, so we have archetypes. And those archetypes could be anything. You can do Google archetypes. You could have the love, the caretaker, the analyst. I mean, Google archetypes. I don't have to go into that. That's something you can do on your own. But archetypes equals MK Ultra, psychological, biological, social, engineering, politics, religion, science. And of course, Silicon Valley is the place, the hub of the archetypes, the development and the engineering and the sustainment of archetypes. And of course, yeah, bioengineering, CRISPR gene editing. And it translates in the population. Okay, like academia. There's universities all over the world and in the United States. And we have Hollywood, politics, religion, science, all the movers and shakers. That's why you see Hollywood stars. They're great for 20 something, 30 years, maybe 40 if they're lucky. But you see how some of the aggressive programming breaks down and causes the person to go into like glitchy mode, which if you ever watch the Stepford Wives, I have an itchy. Stepford Wives, the one with Nicole Kidman, and one of the wives, she just kept spinning. They were dancing and she just kept spinning and spinning and spinning. She just couldn't stop. And then because they were all dancing together, the men and the women, and then her programming glitched. And so she started like jerking as if she was glitching. Well, I want you to watch Britney Spears reels. She was taught to perform at a young age, groomed for it. Okay? It's not as organic as people think, oh, look, we found this girl and, and she's so talented. You don't know really what kind of people are part of different programs out there that are groomed for this stuff. And then there's a great storyline that they were organic. They just plucked him out of nowhere and here we are, here's the star. Okay, that's a great story. It's like fantasy, Prince Charming. But now she is dancing with hardly anything on, just showing everything off. And she's dancing on Facebook Reels as if she can't stop dancing. Like her programming is continuing, but her body is breaking down. Her mind is breaking down. So much stuff is going on. I feel bad for the girl because she was programmed for it and the programming is breaking down. Okay? So she was programmed for that. So many of us have been programmed for so many things. But let's look at my world. Because little did I know that there's a type of programming that, like people say, undetected mind control people. Okay, well, Britney Spears, Lady Gaga, all the people in Hollywood, they're the detectable mind control people. Okay, obviously, to have that kind of talent, they had to go through so much stress to get there. But regardless if it's organic or it was contrived and it was planned out, you'll never know. But there is undetectable mind control. How does that work? It happened as babies. And so you don't know where Charles Manson came from, right? You just know that he was crazy and he ended up murdering people. And he also was extremely intelligent and he had brought in a following of young women who just hung on his every word. And he was told so many things and was radicalized by somebody. You don't know who, but he was radicalized and caused those murders that then struck fear in all the mainstream who were looking at all the hippies that used to be to them peaceful. And then Charles Manson changed that whole perception of the hippie movement. But of course, the hippie movement also had their own stuff. The war, all the civil rights, the Vietnam War, civil rights, the LGBT sexual revolution, the drug revolution, and then the communes, all the organic stuff, all the tinctures, all the homeopathic, the cannabis, the psychedelics, the music, the poetry. And there is a specific wardrobe attached to that. Okay? Okay, so hippies in our society, they're obvious. You can see the crunchy mamas, the crunchy daddies, whatever. They're obvious. You know who they are. They know who they are. Some of them take offense to what I say. Then there's ones that are undetectable. I was never really a hippie. I didn't wear those clothes. I was paying attention to a murder case, with Jodi Arias and Travis Alexander. And why I was so close to that case, not close like literally, but why I was so fascinated by that case was because she went to prepaid legal. Ended up with a Mormon guy who used her. Maybe he abused her too, but used her, promised her stuff. she was desperate for love. She was traveling all over the place, going long distances, long distance relationships, dropped out of high school. I guess her parents, when you look at her background, nothing too much to speak of. Nobody really heard of anything. But when you drop out of high school at 11th grade, something's going on in the household. You just don't know what it is. But somehow something caused her to drop out of high school at 11th grade and then go into photography. And I'm just like, and I'm looking at this situation and I'm fascinated by the case. I'm fascinated by her intelligence, her eloquence, her strategy. I mean, she tried to strategize that whole getting out of that murder scene, but she wasn't any match for the prosecutor at the time. But I watched that case almost every single episode. If you go onto YouTube, watch that case. Watch her. Okay, watch her. She was like my programming, but that gone haywire, but I didn't end up where she ended up. When I was in relationships and I was wanting to go into a specific direction and it didn't go that direction, I just moved on. Yeah, I cried. I was pissed off, but I didn't go in any direction of obsession. I just kept moving on. And I was like, hey, whatever. But somehow something in her clicked to the point where she ended up, literally, the rage within her ended up murdering that poor kid who had his own background of abuse and drug stuff in his background, his parents not being there. Travis Alexander, the Mormon guy, that was an eloquent speaker, a salesman at Prepaid Legal. He was adopted by his grandma, who then brought him into the Mormon church and played that. But before that, he had a very hard background as well. Okay? And so she had obviously a difficult background, or she would have graduated high school and gone on to the next thing. So something happened within her babyhood. Somewhere, because no one could put their pinpoint if there was any abuse in the family. Like you hear about people, oh yeah, he was an alcoholic, she was this and she was that. And so you can see some of the cases out there with people with kids that have issues. The parents are alcoholics, they're abusing their kids. Everyone knows about it. It's just a matter of when this kid's going to be taken from the home or something to happen with the kid. But no, there wasn't anything like that in that home. And you can study that and see and confirm yourself. But I suspect there was programming going on that caused her to be so obsessive about love. And she was also a sexual crazy wow. They had pictures in that case of her posing nude and doing all these things with him. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like she was so obsessed with sex and love and marriage and knew how to reel in a man. Okay. And I'm just like, oh my God. She was radicalized in sex and love. And that's the thing about what we've seen in the conspiracy world when we see certain pictures or videos of older white men with a woman dancing. And she's doing just really this graceful dancing, just doing whatever choreography, just for a whole bunch of men. And you think about the programming of people. And you think about how many years, how many decades they have been experimenting on women, as well as men. But experimenting on women, making them so gorgeous, so sexual, so graceful, like a Stepford wife, programming women for obviously the men at the top. I mean, you look at Donald Trump and the women that he has been around are fucking gorgeous. I would go as far as say a Stepford wife, completely programmed. And there's a lot of that, of course, in the fashion industry. But could you really prove that? Nah, but we have speculation. And that's why there is a whole conspiracy world around the Illuminati and them programming women. Of course, we hear about human trafficking and all that stuff. But whatever. But what I want you to understand is there's also, it's not the obvious ones. There are obvious programmed people that you see with the naked eye out there in fame and all that stuff, the politics, religion, sciences. But there's people in your community that have also been this programming. But they're not like anyone famous. They're just your regular people that were probably part of a CIA project. I don't know how it was. I don't know how it was introduced to the participants. I don't know how many people are involved, but I will speculate. I will just develop a storyline right now and say there was probably a huge, huge project that happened in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s of developing undetectable mind control humans, men, women, and probably more in the higher upper middle class, upper class, obviously not the poor. They take the poor kids, adopt them out, or take kids from other places, adopt them out to people who will do these and program people for our society. And some end up falling through the cracks. Others end up dying from cancer, disease, and chronic illness, or end up doing themselves in, or falling through the cracks of our society, or end up being famous or in jobs like CNN or in tech or in other types of high profile, advanced types of jobs relative to their programming. And then we also have the religions, religious fanatics. Why we have all these types, like, the Branch Davidian, the David Koresh's, even the newest ones and out there, which doesn't surprise me. People were pegging me as some cult leader because obviously I had the background of trauma-based programming enough to be so influential and not care what people say and just kind of say things that would not necessarily like think that, oh, is this going against the grain of society? Is there going to be pushback? No, I mean, my program was really different and I was able to say things without wondering if I was going to, ruffle some feathers. And then when I saw the possibility of the J world and all that, then I just kept pushing back just as much as when someone pushes at me, I push back, but I push back 10 times as hard. But I was never trained to be violent. Though, yes, things like, people get spanked, all that stuff, but I was never trained to be violent. It was how I can strategize intellectually. But then I also see that in Jodi Arias, but the rage to cause her to go after the guy that finally said, no, it's not going to happen, to where she strategized going to his house and doing that kind of stuff. What else happened in her background caused her to do that? But it didn't cause me to do that. It caused me to just keep going to the next thing, and build. I have no idea. But so when I'm looking at that case, and I'm looking at Charles Manson, and I'm looking at so many people out there, so many of them have gone through training and gone through that kind of grooming. Some were groomed, yes, to be like Stepford Wives, I've known some. I would just say this, I've known some. I've seen it. I'm not going to say exactly because they know. I mean, I've seen it. Yeah. So I'm like a harbinger. I mean, I'm not saying like I'm a harbinger of doom, but I'm an indicator. I'm just one of so many people that have been programmed. And so many, of course, in California. That's why California is so full of so many people who are all about the love, religion, fanatical religion. The MLMs, multi-level marketing stuff. Yeah, you get so much advancement, like in biotech, technology, and, the sciences, same thing. But in the acting and the politicians and of course the hippies, all of the health and wellness world. Okay, the gurus, the tantric sex people. And there's also fear. I remember having fear, complete and utter fear, be integrated into the way we were brought up. Fear is a weapon. It radicalizes people. Okay? Fear is, it radicalizes them to where you get them to act in a certain way, and when they overstep, then you can put them in jail or do something to stop the behavior and destroy them if they get out of line. And you can spiritually destroy people. That's what they were trying to do to me the last 7 years, was me trying to bring out something that's going to change the way change kind of the trajectory, but you need to have the plus and minus. I'm playing the game correctly. I'm abiding by the law. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not trying to convert anyone. I keep to myself. I absolutely have no issue not trying to attack anyone or anything. And I'm promoting food. And I pay my taxes. I look both ways before I cross the street. I cross inside, crosswalks if I even do that. I stop at stop signs. I don't play the game of I'm going to be a radicalist. I'm going to be a fanatic and do social disobedience. The whole I will not comply shit. Okay, what the fuck is that? And so somehow whatever programming that was tweaked in me allowed me to finally figure it out and have everything come out in the wash. And everything came out in the wash pretty clean. I mean, it took a lot of work to do. It took a lot of fighting to come out of the wash pretty clean. But I came out of the wash. All of that bullshit, very clean. So fear equals a weapon. Wardrobe becomes your weapon of war. What are you wearing? How do you wear your hair? What kind of clothes are you wearing? What are you trying to get? What are you trying to accomplish? And you can wear your wardrobe to look like you're about to go and close, a multi-billion-dollar deal and wear your Armani suits and your perfume and all of that. Perfume. Wear your cologne. Or you can wear those slick, pencil-thin skirts that with high heels and a smart overcoat and your hair done in a specific way with the makeup and with the nails, and you play that corporate game of this is my wardrobe. I'm going to go and take over or hostile take over your company, but I'm going to sell you sex along the way. Okay, so fear equals a weapon, and there is a wardrobe. It becomes your weapon of war. So pay attention to your clothing line. What are you trying to do? Snag a man? You can see the girls hardly wearing anything to show off all their boobs and show their body so they can go and get a man and play with their hormones and get whatever it is that they want to get, whatever that is, who knows. Okay, selling somebody something. And so what are you trying to do? Snag a man, throw the first grenade, signal to people you have a remedy. So when you're showing your garden of herbs and you have all your little MLM products and your homeopathic tinctures and everything else, okay, what are you selling? You're throwing the first grenade. You're going to actually start a war by giving somebody an antibiotic, by giving somebody a remedy to stop their symptoms. So give me 1 second. Oh, here we go. Ban from stream. Okay, I don't want anybody commenting on this. Okay. All right. So no, just keep things chill. All right. So no comments. All right. So throw the first grenade, signal people that you have a remedy. And so there's people like that that are obvious. They're wearing they're wearing the costumes of someone selling you a remedy, a detox, whatever. They have a specific warrior gear that says that they are at war with somebody. And that's the hippie. That's the thing with Charles Manson, was he now represented that the hippie movement was not really about peace because they were radicalized. And today hippies are radicalized because they think someone's trying to destroy them. Like literally that's what's going on right now. And so it used to be peace anti-war back in 1960s and 1970s against the Vietnam War now has turned into a weapon. The peace movement, anti-war stuff has turned into a weapon of now we got to find the enemy. We got to develop an enemy, find the enemy, and go after the enemy. And so you see some people on Facebook getting radicalized, not only against our government, but against other people, against water, food, meat, milk, cheese, eggs, other people, salt, sugar, GMO. I mean, you name it, radicalized against something. Or they love people to death. They're all about love, love, love. And that's the thing about love and death, or sex and reproduction, or reproduction and dying. When you are absolutely about love, everything's about love, it is about destruction. Okay? And there's a wardrobe with that. Love can get so radicalized. Guess what happened to Travis Alexander? He died from someone so obsessed with him Like, people are obsessed with their daughters, obsessed with their sons, obsessed with people in their family, to the point of destruction. And you see how that destruction gets carried out. Go to the doctor, go see your shaman, go get a surgery, go get a pill, powder, supplement, detox, go get an antibiotic. Or take it to the more extreme, somebody is premeditating some kind of crazy ass crime, like what happened with Travis Alexander and Jodi Arias, where she premeditated that whole situation and had a date lined up right afterwards. That was, holy shit, that's love radicalized. That's no different than Charles Manson. Charles Manson was radicalized around the end of the world, around the downfall of their society. Oh, he was radicalized, and he was speaking to so many people who are like, oh my God, they didn't hear this stuff before. These are kids from the 1950s. They're now 20 years old. They were coming out from rural places, coming into the city, and Charles Manson picks them up and says, hey, I got something to tell you. This is about what's going on. This is what's going on. This is what's going to happen. And he had things to say, and they were like, holy shit. And then he targeted Hollywood. Of course, they denied him a record deal. And then he targeted the Tate and LaBianca and all those people over there in that ranch. And so he was radicalized. And they let him out of jail a few times too. He was radicalized and let loose in the population. And there are people out there that have been radicalized, but through an undetectable way when they're a baby. Trauma-based programming, probably in the genitalia. I would actually... Just like the guys are getting circumcised, and they get circumcised, and they're hot to trot right out of the gate. Okay? That's the whole thing with circumcision. It radicalizes them into wanting to procreate. Well, imagine a young girl, not even a young girl, a baby getting radicalized in that situation. And she grows up to be obsessed with love and sex and destruction. And then you see it when she's like in her 30s, when life doesn't go her way, or when the guy doesn't react the way she wants to. She doesn't get the guy to get married and play that game of being a Stepford wife. Then the rage, and that's how many of them are in how many of them. There's the few women that are killers that either killed one time or serial killers. Yeah, it was the sex rage, the love rage, the violence rage, fanatics that radicalized in infancy and then all the way throughout their whole life. That's fucking crazy. That's an undetectable mind control person. And you're like, well, where does this come from? How does it come out in the population? They had an okay childhood. And it's not about just a childhood. What was done when they were babies too. And yes, so you can have someone that come out fucking crazy from an upper middle class home, and no one hears anything about anything. Everything seems to be okay. But when someone acts out, I don't care who they are, when they act out, obsessed about love, obsessed about death, obsessed about destruction, obsessed of wanting to get a man and always having to find a way to do that. Okay, I was that way on some level, but I also wanted to do great in my career. I was wanting to be normal in my career. I never let that get way out of hand. I think there's probably a period in my life where I was gone a little crazy, but not really. I just was having a lot of fun. But at some point, I was like, yeah, that's not really where I want to end up. I'm just going to go and concentrate on being a farmer's insurance agent or an insurance agent and redirect the energy and take the energy into a career, into learning stuff, into passing tests. I redirected. Because I had something to redirect. I mean, I had the academics shoved down my throat as well. And so then when I finally did find a man, I guess, and I figured out that it wasn't some serial killer on some level, ended up with my husband and everything is great. And I was able to release the demons through our marriage. And no one ever got hurt as I was releasing the demons. That's the thing about releasing demons. Are people going to get hurt in the process? That's the thing about what's going on is we're in a high climate, high frequency environment, and people are releasing their demons. And are they destroying themselves? Are they destroying other people? And are they going to survive releasing their demons? Okay? So fear equals weapon. Wardrobe becomes your weapon of war. Pay attention to your clothing line. What are you trying to do? Snag a man, throw the first grenade, signal people you have a remedy. Don't let your fear become your weapon. Let whatever fears out there that are necessary to keep you safe be your defense system. But when you let your fear become your weapon, you let your defense system get out of control. You have become radicalized. That is something somebody programmed into you until you learn how to release that programming, release those demons. Okay, so autoimmune disorders are your immune system, the fear of death and attack, radicalized, and so they attack first versus waiting for something to come in, and they attack first. Okay? When the system is looking to scale down the population without going back to old methods, your friends and your family and your neighbors with out of control defense systems become radicalized. They act like out of control antibiotics in an autoimmune disorder, always on the attack. Okay, so when you get all these therapies, what are you doing? You're basically trying to attack your body first, get it all, primed up and ready for the attack. So essentially, you're preempting a war. That's what all the therapies are. Before it even happens, you're preempting a war. When people are attacking someone because they don't like what they look like, they don't like what they say, they don't like how they act, their ideology, and they're just talking smack and saying, oh, she's like this, oh, she's like that, you have just started a war. Because you didn't allow them to do anything, because you already attacked them, undermining every possibility about them because you don't like that they look a certain way, they act a certain way, they do a certain way, a certain thing. And it's obvious in so many groups that are so homogenized that don't like diversity. Okay? And so they act like out of control antibodies in an autoimmune disorder, always on the attack, destroying new evolution like oncology. So better take some inventory to see if you've been weaponized against everyone out there. And most likely all of you have on some level. Because of the industries that you're in, your politics, religion, your science dogmas, America has been weaponized. Every single American is part of some kind of political, religious, or scientific dogmatic religion on some level, and is poised for the attack for whatever, whether it's biologically, whether it's spiritually, whether it is intellectually or physically. Americans and most of the world are poised for the attack. Okay? And so this is when releasing demons is so necessary. And it's not the people that are promoting meat, milk, and cheese, and eggs, and fruits, and vegetables, salt, sugar, and even therapies who have been weaponized. Okay? You can promote a therapy, but I mean, that's still a weapon on some level, but to you, it's not. To you, it's protection. But nothing has attacked you yet. So but still, that's a perception that I understand. But it's those who are blaming those who promote whatever somebody is blaming to be the cause of their issues to have intolerance, who have been radicalized. And so if you don't release the demons, if you do not release the demons in your body, mind, and spirit, it doesn't matter what it is, if it's therapy or if it's a food or air or water, you're going to have an adverse reaction because you haven't released those demons and you're letting those things control you and torture you and attack you, and you haven't let it release. Okay? Because you're always going to be going around people. You're always going to be walking down the street. You're always going to be drinking water, food, air. That's going to have all different types of diversity, and you have to know how to deal with that evolution, that release, that retention. And if you don't know how, then anything that affects you, whatever it is, that is FDA approved, anything that causes you some kind of energetic response, immunological response, you're going to blame and become radicalized, become weaponized. And then develop a following of people who are like, oh my God, carbohydrates are so bad. Oh my God, this is so bad. Oh my God, this person is so bad. Salt is so bad. She or he is destroying people. Bill Gates is so bad. And then you see the religions develop from that. Okay? And so it is the people blaming those who promote whatever somebody is blaming to be the cause of their issues, to have intolerance, who have been radicalized. So anyone that blames somebody for something, okay, you've been radicalized. And many people wear the costumes, but some don't wear the armor or the wardrobe. It comes out in the way they deal with symptoms. When you think about it, I even come off as intolerant to those who believe in all the politics, religion, and science dogmas. I also know how radicalized people can get. Okay, so just because I point it out doesn't mean I'm intolerant. I'm pointing out, like, the emperor's not wearing any clothes. Do you see it? Okay, so what do? I keep my Facebook relatively moderated. There is no war on my page. I promote life, like food, milk, meat, cheese, eggs, and adaptation. I don't worship a person, place, or thing. I take personal accountability, and I make a point not to convert other people into anything. I don't make any recommendations on how to take away symptoms. Okay? I'm even aware. I'm not radicalized against politics, religion, or science. I have an issue with extremism to the point of activism and radicalism. I also avoid constantly regurgitating somebody else's words. And I may paraphrase quotes from time to time, like seasoning food. But I make a point not to regurgitate all the time. And so, by the way, I said Charles Manson was an indicator that the hippies back then could have been dangerous. You didn't want to pick up a hippie because they could turn into a situation like 1969, i.e. Tate LaBianca murders. Now we have hippies all over the place. Okay? Holy shit. And they are at war with the world. And many have turned into scientists and gardeners. But they're also the ones, I'm telling you, the whole cannabis industry. I'm serious, the whole cannabis industry was part of the whole hippie weaponizing against people's immune system. Okay, I'm sorry if you smoke pot. I'm sorry if I've, have offended you. But when you think about it, the drug culture came out of the 1960s. Oh yeah, there were drugs and opium even back in the 1800s and all that. But what has been completely radicalized was the marijuana industry. And it's all over California. And it's in all religions. It's in all the scientific dogmas out there. It's in all the politics. That's why I had to get out of California. But then I'm coming to a state of Ohio, which they're not as liberal when it comes to marijuana. They're still, I'm glad there's still something that says okay, but eventually they're going to be lifting whatever limitations, and there's going to have recreational marijuana out here. I know it, which, okay, fine. I'll stay home and stay safe. But that's the thing, was California was so full of the hippie stuff because that's where everything originated from. And then, of course, the marijuana world. Okay? And so the 1960s and 70s were a scary time. History repeats. Release the demons. Many people were radicalized back then. Those were the victims below at the Tate LaBianca Manson murders. Because there's a picture that I showed. Okay? Remember Helter Skelter? And how do I know about Helter Skelter? Where would I know this from? I was looking in my mom's den. She has so many books. And one of them was Helter Skelter. I noticed it. I never read it. I've read other books that she had in her library, but I didn't read Helter Skelter, but I knew about it. It jumped out at me. Okay? So, many people have been radicalized back then. Those were the victims below the Tate LaBianca Manson murders. Remember Helter Skelter. So that's how bad being radicalized can get. That's how bad demons can get when not kept in check. Release those demons because you will be looking for an enemy. But there is no enemy. That's what you have to realize. There is no enemy except for your own demands / demons. How many people today are being radicalized? Look at your behavior. Look at what you say on Facebook. Look at who you're looking for as the enemy. How many parents have radicalized their kids against the other parent they don't like for whatever reason? Okay, if you're not looking for someone out there as the enemy, you have been radical. If you're looking for someone out there as the enemy, you have been radicalized. Are people suffering that much, driven to such great lengths today? If you're releasing demons right now, is a scary time. Again, you don't know what lurks in the hearts of mankind. Protect yourself. Remember how aggressive religions were back then and how they're aggressive today. I don't mind religion, but how far do you take it? How far do you take your politics? How far do you take your science dogmas? How far have people taken their religion, their group mentality? Large families act like the same way. So if your family and friends have been radicalized, that's a sign. The system is trying to break up families and friends who have been so radicalized. Okay? Again, whatever based upon religion, their politics, their science. And if you're looking for a new enemy in a family, I don't care what it is, that's radicalization. Okay? So some people take their beliefs to such an extreme, their fear becomes their weapon. Okay, don't let your fear of whatever become the weapon that will put you away, because some people act on their fears. They do stupid shit in the name of their religion, their politics, their science, dogmas, their fears. Release the demons. The group mentality is what weaponizes people. People get caught up in the energy. They get caught up in the camaraderie. The people that are against the J world, they couldn't wait to freaking string me up. The camaraderie. And then people against Biden, against Trump, people against Bill Gates, people against the V's. I mean, I think the V's were used as a way to like just, but then they're like, oh, who's behind the V's? It's Bill Gates. So then, again, you know, people have been radicalized to go after something. It doesn't matter what it is, to go after something. So they get caught up in the camaraderie. They get caught up in the looking for the enemy. Remember, January 6th, people were radicalized. They acted upon it. Some people's lives were lost because of it. And some people were put in jail and indicted. It's very easy on Facebook to get radicalized because if you're already in fear with personal demons coming up and you think something or someone is a demon, people do stupid shit because they think they are fighting a war. They have been radicalized. Chill the fuck out. Release the demons. Make sure you don't radicalize your kids because they are all susceptible to this type of shit. They take cues from mommy and daddy who radicalize their own children. The world is not what you think. Okay? You have to be the one to keep that shit under control if you know what is running you. If you don't know what is running you, then it's everyone else's fault. That's politics. That's religion. That's the science dogmas. That's looking for an enemy. By the way, some people's demons are in the form of cancer, disease, and chronic illness. There is a way out, but you have to face the demons and feed them and release them. And it's, again, I said, I wish you all the luck in the world. It's not fucking easy releasing demons because they are formidable. I remember my mom told me I was formidable because I was at the height of just all of my angst and the rage was building up in my teenhood. And she's like, you're formidable. Absolutely. You fucking developed. You made this. Okay? And so the behavioral sciences field is no fucking joke. They develop problems and have a solution, developing more problems. And so who weaponized? And this is where I asked the question, who weaponized Jody to be so extreme about love, sex to the point of murder? This begs the question, how many criminals in the court system, prison system, have been under extreme programming? And then you look at all the different gangs, and you look at all the federal prisons, the penitentiaries, people who've been radicalized. Holy shit. Now you see what's going on here. Okay? This begs the question, how many criminals in the court system, prison system, have been under extreme programming? What is brewing in you? What are you grooming in yourself, mom and dad, and in your offspring? In this environment, many people's demons are rearing their ugly heads. Be very careful who you invite into your world of love, sex, and marriage. Release the demons. It is okay to be single if you're single. Let me tell you, the answer isn't in another person who has so many issues and you don't know what they are. But be very careful advertising yourself and your kids for predatory consumption. But many demons are out there looking for a naive, inexperienced person wanting and needing validation or have fallen under the spell of sex and drugs. That was Travis Alexander's Achilles heel. He fell for Jodi Arias' sexuality and she used it as a weapon to tractor beam him into her world until he wanted to leave. Very allegorical, like the sirens. He did not stand a chance as he was brought up in the Mormon world and sex before marriage was a no-no. But she was groomed for it and never figured out how to release those demons. And so you can read that. But I'll tell you, I had a fascination with that case because I could probably identify with a lot of where she was coming from, but I would not ever want to murder someone. And I would walk away before I ever got to that point. For some reason, she couldn't walk away. And I was never that great in bed. I mean, seriously. I mean, I had my moments, but I don't want to be great in bed. I don't mind performing what I need to perform and all that, but I don't want to be great in bed. I'm not using, that was never anything that I really wanted to have as a badge of honor. Being great in bed is not something that I would ever want anyone to feel that's what their goal is. If your goal is to be so great in bed, then I can only imagine the obsession. I can only imagine what it is. And that's the thing, because what happens when men do release their seed all the time, they get depleted. They get sucked dry, literally and figuratively. And when women have sex all the time, they get used up. Okay? And so that's the thing, is if you don't... And so when our society is programming our girls to be these sex bombs, and that's it, and you're seeing them all over Facebook showing off everything. They have been programmed, and it may not even be the undetectable mind control, behavior modification as a baby. Okay, I'm not trying to accuse anyone of that. out there, but then the TV, the movies, even mom and dad who've been groomed from somewhere are teaching that to their kids or girls and their boys. And then the schoolyard, we have kids that have been groomed and sexualized at such a young age that they're doing shit that, holy crap. Okay, so that's also the destruction. That's also part of the depopulation agenda, is the over-sexualization of children, the over-sexualization of even the parents grooming their kids to be that. And also, and you see a lot of single moms out there. Why is that? Because what else do they have to offer besides a child and their body? And so they're left with having to raise like 5 kids, 2 kids, 3 kids, because the dad either has other issues or the dad just walked away because he's like, I can't get with that crazy at all. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, but that's kind of what's going on now, is that we have procreated so many times that now what's keeping marriages together? Like, you really have to work so fucking hard to keep a marriage. And having children in a shaky marriage, where people have issues, yeah, that's a recipe for disaster. Because children do have a tendency to break things up in shaky circumstances if you don't have anything more than just the sex and the partying. Because yeah, no marriage and no relationship can survive on sex and partying all the time. I mean, they can, but if you have kids, it's not going to happen. So, and so, yeah, so I make a point to keep that shit chill the fuck out. I don't want to have so much crazy ass sex, and I know my husband would love it, but it's probably why he looks relatively young right now, because I'm not sucking the life out of him. I'm trying to keep him alive, even means saying no. Now that he's home every day, he's like, oh yeah, we have sex every day. Yeah, not so much. We'll have it on the weekend, maybe a couple times a weekend, if that. But I'm not trying to destroy my husband sexually. I'm not trying to enslave him. I'm not trying to recommend him anything other than food. And yeah. And so, yeah, the sex and love world, that is also a depopulation agenda. The porn industry, depopulation agenda. There's so much. And so we have a lot of women and men out there that have been radicalized, that are leaving California. And who knows, but they're going off to parts unknown. And so now that I look back, you know, when you read Jodi Arias' background, you'd be like, whoa. You'd be like, wait, isn't that kind of like what you did, Jillian? you drove here, you dropped out of high school, you drove long ways to go visit, you know, to go find a husband or whatever. Yeah. But I released many demons. I released so many demons. But when I mentioned Kaczynski and I mentioned Manson in my book, you know, I have an identification. I understand what the fuck they were dealing with. They were dealing with a system that purposely was trying to tear down something. There's a bunch of psychological shit that went on in academia, and there's so many people who were subjected to that. They were brought in under like, oh, pie in the sky, I'm gonna, you know, get a degree and have an invention, and here's my intellect and my intelligence, and yeah. And so, but then that happens out there in the population. Now, did the government breed that into the population, or was that already there and the government was trying to replicate it to see how far they could take it so they know how to look for indicators in people? I have no idea if the chicken or the egg. I have no idea. When did it all begin? Well, humans have been around for thousands and millions of years, and they've done so much research. We have been dying and reproducing for such a long time that they know how to program people. They know how to get them all into the culture, into a lifestyle, into a belief system, into an occupation. You wear the costumes, you play the part, they give you validation. Here's, you know, money for cheap, and so you can go do whatever you want if you do this, this, and this. I mean, the carrot and the stick, the whole positive and negative reinforcement, behavior modification, the trappings of wealth and money and chasing power and chasing validation at the detriment of yourself, that was programmed into you. And then repeating positive platitudes all over the place as if to say that means everything is okay. If you just say a positive platitude and you be positive and you do this, then it doesn't matter what the system has done or been doing, because everything is okay because you said it was okay, because you have a positive meme that says everything is wonderful. All you gotta do is just say good morning, everything is so great, and be kind to everyone. And I'm like, fuck, okay. That to me is like, I see a Stepford wife who has been so lobotomized into just love, sex, and positivity and doing everyone's bidding, and absolutely have no negative thing to say, and has just been programmed to be that, and then basically deteriorate when it's time to go. I don't play that shit. Fuck no. No, there's a reality. There's a dark side to this world, and there is a lighter side. And yes, those two have to work together, and you can still acknowledge the dark side of this world and still stay alive. My husband. Jay. Hold on. All right, I'm going to go, but I don't know if this is going to, but anyways. All right. I will see you guys later, but now you understand how this world works. It's not as pretty as you think. Release the demons so you don't become radicalized, okay? Do not become radicalized. And you can see it in people's religions, their science, and in their politics. Don't think there is no enemy, okay? There is no enemy. Just survive what's going on. Feed your body, drink the milk, eat the cream, release the demons. Take the time. All right, bye.